So I just saw the new Pokemon movie on Cartoon Network. I was thinking about waiting till it came out on DVD. I'm glad I watched it on television. The experience of watching it on TV was actually better than in the theater. I mean, of course, it's like a larger TV, but than my little 23 inch that I'm watching it on. But really, being on Twitter and everyone's hashtagging with the hashtag Pokemon movie, it was really fun social experience. I got, everyone's talking about it. It was really exciting, and I actually didn't mind the commercials. 'Cause commercials gave me time to make more tweets and read everyone else's tweets, and I was on a couple of boards where people were watching it in real time and posting about it. So it was a really good experience watching it on TV, believe it or not. Now I want to get watch it on DVD because I think they might have cut some a little bit from the beginning. They definitely cut the ending. They cut it so sharp, harshly at the end. They cut it at the they just cut it like and it's over. It's like they didn't really show the proper ending, really. But you got the idea that it was over and this was the resolution. They just cut it right there just so it fit in that time block they had for it. Because normally when a movie really airs on TV, that normally ends at an odd time, like at on 15 or 20 or so, like after the hour, or so they just wanted to cut it short so they could air that Lego Ninja show they had on that I turned off as soon as I could. Now the movie, I was shocked. I made a post on Tumblr where I basically mocked. I mean, I love the Pokemon movies, but they're well, I watch them, but they're so predictable. They're so formulaic, and I made this whole post mocking how formulaic the movies are. And I basically said, "Oh, I'm gonna tell you what this happens in this movie before I even watch it," and I was completely wrong. They blew away maybe 60 or 70% of the cliches that generally are used to build up that usually formulate a Pokemon movie. Excuse me, I'm shaking the table a bit. Get my hands off the table as I'm gesturing. The movie was good. I was shocked by it. Really, the first thing that shocked me was okay. They start, the world of Pokemon. They're Pokemon and they have amazing powers and they're so wonderful and they're people called Pokemon trainers, and one of them is Ash Ketchum, and he and Pikachu and his friends have traveled around the world perfecting the art of the battle and da da da. And then, they do that at the beginning of every movie except for I think the first two, which is the first one, the ones that needed it, because that's when all the confused parents were sitting in the theater like, "What the heck am I watching?" They really needed that backstory. But the movie, spoilers everywhere. I'm gonna make the details of the movie explicit here. So if you want to be surprised, don't watch any further. Uh, Especially because it's a breath of fresh air. They did some new things with this movie. It has issues, but I like the direction they took with this. So they have the World of Pokemon intro where they introduce Ash and the Pikachu and the main characters, and then it goes into this 15-16 minute sequence that it basically just turns into a movie about Keldeo and the three musketeers. Those three horse type legendaries, they call them the Musketeer Trio. They're in this movie. They're called the Swords of Justice. I forgot their names. One was like Verizon, and like, there are a couple others. I forgot their names. Excuse me. But all four of them, Keldeo and the trio, they're all telepathic. They all actually have telepathic dialogue, and they're essentially talking Pokemon. And I was like, wow, I feel like this doesn't feel like a Pokemon movie. It just starts and you see these three training Keldeo to be a warrior and stuff, and it makes me and I felt like, wow, I feel like I'm watching the Watership Down movie. I feel like I'm watching Bambi. I feel almost like I'm watching a kids cartoon from the Pokemon world about talking Pokemon surviving in the wild, because that's what it feels like for the first 15-16 minutes. It is excellent. I love it. They really like about 10 minutes into the movie, I think I tweeted, if you want to look at my Twitter account right now, I'm filming this, December 8th, 2012. If you look at my Twitter account from about now, you can see all my live tweets about it. I tweeted about this in real time. I said a couple of times, this feels like this could be an entire hour-and-a-half movie, and there could be not a single human that appears in this movie, and it would feel like a complete movie. They could have did this movie, and it could have been like Bambi or Watership Down, where all the characters are Pokemon, or all the characters are non-humans. It was a breath of fresh air. It's like I loved it. I loved it so much. It was awesome. Uh, yeah, really. and this felt like, I'm gonna just get this out of the way now. Basically, this movie to me, it feels like this movie. Ash is not the main character in this movie. He's in the movie. He's not the main character in this movie. Keldeo is the main character in this movie. The voices, the the designs for all the Pokemon, the all four of the legendaries, the protagonist legendaries in this movie. I like their designs. I like the way they move, because you see the sprites, and you see now the sprites are animated. They have a sort of a looping animation. But when you really see how they move and how they walk and run and how they gesture and emote, that's when you could really see what a Pokemon design is, kind of. And they were all really, they were all great designs. I liked the characters they assigned to each of those four Pokemon. I loved the voices they gave to each of them. I like the fact that they made one of them female. Like, it was, I like the characters they wrote for them. It was great. I wish the movie was just about these Pokemon and not about the human, Ash and Silent and the little dark skinned girl, Iris. Yeah, like I could. This movie could have just been about the Pokemon, and all the roles that the human characters play could have been filled by Pokemon that Keldeo meets and that assist him. That because he just meets Ash and stuff, so he could just run into some Pokemon that like, oh yeah, you need help. We'll help you on your quest to defeat Kyurem or whatever. That could have been the movie. That could have been an incredible movie. Part of me wants to feel like somewhere in the background in the animation team, someone like wrote this pitch for a Bambi style movie just about the coming of age of Keldeo, and they're like, yeah, this is a great story, but you got to work, Ash and Pikachu and all of them into this somehow, or else we really can't sell this as part of the franchise. And I feel that's what happened. And that being said, they worked the human protagonists from the anime series. They worked them into this movie without them totally derailing it. I think they just distracted from the movie. I think the story of Keldeo could have been stronger without any of those characters, but their presence there worked. They made it work. It worked well. I'm gonna keep repeating myself and saying, "Oh, I wish they weren't there," or "I wish they just did it all with Pokemon." Sort of like the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon anime specials, where there are no humans. But not even like that, because even in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon animes, like the Pokemon are anthropomorphic. They're essentially people living in a village where there's stores and they have currency, and they are Pokemon that act like human beings. Whereas in this, they were Pokemon, but they weren't anthropomorphized. I mean, well, they're anthropomorphized in the sense that they're sapient beings and everything, but they talk. They're Pokemon living in the wild. They're not acting like people like in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon setting, and it was really cool to watch. It was just like, I wish they take some more liberties with what they do and don't do with the Pokemon anime and the movies especially. Because with the movies, you could do something like an OVA of just like 3 or 4 episodes, have something completely unique and awesome, and not have it impact the rest of the Pokemon canon in any way, shape, or form. Sort of like how they did those anime trailers for Pokemon Black and White 2 that had nothing to do with the universe of the games. They were their own little thing. And if they just made like 2 or 3 like high like OVAs like that would be really awesome. Covering different subjects and different characters or different scenarios. But anyway, back to the movie itself. Okay, it shouldn't be no secret by now that I really love trains. And when Keldeo, and then like it felt so much like what like sort of like Watership Down, where there's sort of like this mythology and stuff, where you have the Swords of Justice, this trio, and they're training this apprentice, and he's out to prove himself. And there's this Pokemon that lives in this scary place who exists. He fights them, the inductees. He tests their ability to their coming of age by being able to challenge him and testing their limits and everything. And Kyurem was there. I mean, in the first 15 minutes of this movie, we get 1, 2, 3, 4. We get 5 different talking Pokemon. I don't think they've been that many talking Pokemon in any of the Pokemon movies. Like, there's usually 1 or 2 telepathic Pokemon in each of the Pokemon films. I don't think there's ever been 5, and it's great watching Pokemon sit around and have conversations and stuff. They're interesting creatures and they assign such interesting characters to them in this movie, and then the movie gets moving. And anyway, when Keldeo goes into the giant chasm, the what is it, the big chasm or whatever it is in Unova, that's in the game. This actually is like based in where Kyurem is in the game, which is completely awesome and unexpected because the anime really, especially this season up to this point, really hasn't had. It's had very, very little to do with the actual content of the games. So to have the giant chasm in here, and to see like all these train tracks, I'm like, I hope there are trains in this movie, and I hope there's a train chase scene in this movie, and then once the intro, the first like 15 minutes with Keldeo and the Swords of Justice and Kyurem, once that's over, it cuts to Ash and all his friends and all his Pokemon riding a train across the country, and you could see on Twitter, I just blew up. I was like, yes, like freaking trains! This is awesome. And they're riding the train across the country, and they're looking out the windows, and they're seeing herds of bouffant roaming the prairies, and they see a family of deerling in the woods watching the train go by, and all the and Snivy's sitting on the seat next to Ash, all curled up and sleeping, and all the other Pokemon are playing around and bothering her and waking her up, and it's just like this awesome, like no, like I've always my dream is to explore the world by train and go on awesome railway adventures and stuff, and really I consider that that's a fantasy to me. That's like the most awesome thing ever. I consider the idea of exploring the world and going on awesome railway adventures as literally I consider that as equally fantastic to the idea of going to the Pokemon world and being a Pokemon trainer or something like that. So to see this in the opening. Because what they often do is in a lot of the Pokemon movies, there's a sequence at the beginning where Ash will get in a battle with a local of whatever town they're in, and during the battles they'll play a remix version of the latest opening theme for the season of the show that's airing at the time the movie is made. This time they had the opening remix. It was a whole extended scene of Ash and Iris and Silent and all the Pokemon riding the train and the Pokemon running up and down the aisles and getting into trouble and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm okay with this. This is awesome. And I was like, the only way this could possibly get better is if they transfer from the train to an airship, like to a Zeppelin. That would be the only way this could possibly get better, and this would be like my dream movie. So then they get off the train, and excuse me, I'm just sort of summarizing the movie to come up with any points I want to talk about. This is going to probably be one of those longer videos, as you could probably see, because of course when you watch the video you can see how long it is in advance. Yeah, they get off the train. They get off at this train station, and I have this photograph of a train station on the Llangollen Railway in the UK. Excuse me if I'm butchering that name. Yeah, it's a heritage railway in the UK, and I'm telling you, I'm looking at the picture right now. If you're wondering what I'm looking at, they stop at this place by like this train station, and it's shrouded in greenery, and there's this river, and it's overlooking a river, and they get out and buy boxed lunches from the train station and get back on the train. I have there's this photograph. I'm going to link to it on Tumblr. There's a photograph of this place that looked exactly like that, and I don't think it's based on that. I don't think they literally found it, but if they did, I wouldn't be surprised. They find the most beautiful scenery and places to base the locations in the Pokemon movies on, and it really sort of reflects my idea to go around the world and see places like this in real life. That's really the reason why I like these movies so much. Because they are kids' films. They aren't very deep, but they're entertaining for just to get your mind off things or whatever. Then there's this scene where the train is pulling off, and Ash's Scraggy is on the platform trying to catch up with the train. Ash is like, "No, hold, Snivy, use your vines to bring Scraggy onto the train so we don't leave him behind." And I'm like, "Idiot! Just return him. Point your Pokeball at him and say, Scraggy, return." That's problem solved. But of course, solving problems easily like that does not make for good film. Drama makes for good film, and that's why we have these tension of Scraggy almost getting left behind on the station platform. And it's so Keldeo gets on the train, and what else? Yeah, he gets on the train, and excuse me, I'm not gonna even cut this down. I'm just like bantering. Uh, the city they arrive in. One of the sort of cliches about Pokemon movies, they always go to an interesting city where some festival or something is going on. They end up in this city. Is it based on London? It looks kind of Londonish. I've never been to London, obviously, but it looks a little bit sort of like some parts of London I've seen photos of. But they go to this city, and they take the train into the city, right? And I even tweeted like, oh, this is the city they're going to get stuck in, like, because most of these movies they either get trapped inside a city, or they get trapped out of a city or a place, and they have to break in to save the day, or they have to break out to escape them being trapped by a villain or a Pokemon or something. That's usually what happens. This one, they ride the train in, and there's a monorail that hangs underneath the rail. There's a train like that in Germany, I know, and it's like a suspended monorail, and I was like, wow, they're really treating me well with all these trains and stuff. Like I love trains and I love airships, and there's all this train stuff in this Pokemon movie so far. I'm like, this is awesome. And then Kyurem attacks, and they duck into the subway. No, but well, before that, there's this scene where Kyurem is chasing Ash and Keldeo. Keldeo, he's a cool character. I like his attitude. He's whiny and everything, but he's endearing to me as well. He's a cool character. He's immature. His story is of how he matures and learns to learn about himself and his limits and take up new responsibilities and challenges and stuff like that. Uh, the weird thing, I never read it. I don't know anything about Keldeo, so I was kind of surprised that he shoots water out of his hooves, and there's this part where, of course, Ash always has to ride a legendary Pokemon in this, and when this happens in this movie, Ash jumps on Keldeo's back during this chase scene through the city where they get separated from Silent and Iris, and Keldeo shoots water out of his hooves and starts rocketing around very very clumsily, mind you. He's very off balance. You can tell this isn't something he's meant to do, and it's kind of like in Mario Sunshine when you have the rocket nozzle for your water pack, and he shoots water up and he starts flying around. Keldeo does that, but he shoots the water out of his hooves. It's the weirdest thing ever, but it's cool. I mean, it's different. It's interesting. I guess that's probably like in his Pokedex entry or something. I haven't even read it. Um, for all I'm into Pokemon, I really I'm not like addicted to the games or anything. Ironically, so we got Ash riding Keldeo around, shooting water from his hooves, which is a weird thing to even say. And then they duck into the subway, and I'm like, oh, this movie is treating. Oh, one thing I have to say about the city, the design for the city is great, the scenery is great, but it's deserted. It's barren. There's no one on the streets in the city. Oh, another odd thing. I'm getting ahead of myself. When they bring Keldeo to the Pokemon Center, Nurse Joy is like, "Oh yeah, that's Keldeo. Everyone knows about Like, not in the context of a legend. People's like, "Oh yeah, that's Keldeo." People around here know about Keldeo. He hangs out around McDonald's sometimes. It's so casual, and he actually has video. She just goes on YouTube or whatever and just looks up video of Keldeo and the legendary trio just running around. Like, oh yeah, I heard Keldeo's training the Swords of Justice. The three legendary musketeers are training a new apprentice. It was in the newspaper, and so it's kind of odd that there's sort of a more sort of casual take on the legendary Pokemon, whereas typically it's like, oh, that Pokemon was only known of in lore. It hasn't been seen in 5,000 years, according to legend, oh, I can't believe I've seen this Pokemon. It's usually more mystical, more of a legend. This one is just sort of like, oh yeah, those are those special Pokemon. Like you see them around town sometimes, but it's a nice change of pace. So Keldeo. Yes, so the city is deserted. Now, the last time we had a major city scene like this in a sort of a metropolis was in the 13th Pokemon movie, which was the Zoroark film. And in that movie, the city was evacuated. There was a specific plot reason why the city had no pedestrians in it by the time Ash and his friends are in the city. This time, there are just no people there. I mean, you could presume that the people ran away once once Kyurem started attacking, but there's nothing in you don't see the people running away that I saw. And now, mind you, I might have been tweeting and I just was looking at my computer screen at the wrong moment while everyone was running indoors. But it's just like the city is totally barren. Like there's this part where they're on a river. There are no boats going up and down the river or anything. The city feels very dead. I mean, design wise and everything about it is great, except there are no people. You want to see people running away. You want to feel like this is the place people live. Whereas here, the city feels like a set piece that they just put it in. Like, okay, we have to have a city in this Pokemon movie, so here's the city. Don't bother putting people in it. And because that's one of the cool things, like in the 13th Pokemon movie, for instance, you see, a guy walking down the street with his Mightyena, like how someone walked down the street with a dog, and then you see someone riding by on their bicycle. You just see like people having normal day lives, which is something in the anime. Normally, street scenes like this, all the people in the background are just static frames, and the only people moving are the main characters. The animation is very limited. There are few crowd scenes, and if they are, there's very little animation or very crude animation. In the Pokemon movies, they have lifelike street scenes of everyday life, and that's one of the things I like about the movies. And like also in the last Pokemon movie, the Victini movie, I did not like that movie in general. I thought it was really one of the least exciting ones to me. But one cool thing is in the beginning is like they're having a Pokemon battle out on the street, whereas they're moving through the city as they have these battles, and you see a little girl, like a mom holding a little her daughter's hand, and the girl's like, "Oh, look, they're having a Pokemon battle," and like you actually see that, like you expect to see in real life. Here, the city is pretty barren, and it's a shame because it's such a cool looking city. Excuse me, a little phlegmy there. And then they go into the subway, and they're really treating me good with these subway things so far. And I keep thinking, man, if all these train stuff, and they go in the tunnel, they're walking through the tunnel, and they find a locked door, and I'm like, okay, please open this door. And there's like an abandoned train behind it that they use, and Keldeo opens the door, and there's just more train tracks. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, that would have just been too good to be true. Like, and also if they just had a Zeppelin in the movie or like an airship, and you had a train scene, if you have an airship scene now, I'll just be in paradise, and this will be like the best Pokemon movie ever. Then they open another door, and there's a train museum underground in the subway tunnels filled with vintage trains and trolleys. And I'm like, oh, come on. How did they get in my head and write this movie from my like fantasies or whatever? Like, this sounds like a movie I wrote myself. So like all this train stuff. And oh, by the way, there actually is, to get a bit real Unova on you, there is actually, yeah, ooh. Let's see, if this is taking place near Giant Chasm, then that would be sort of in the Brooklyn, Queens area, and there's actually is a subway station in that area in real life, where it's the old Court Street station. They turned the Court Street subway station into a museum, and they have all the vintage subway trains. They have preserved vintage subway cars parked in the station for people to look at. So maybe that was what inspired this underground train museum in the movie. I doubt it, but that might just be the inspiration for it. So I've been there in real life. Oh man, I'm gonna have to do a real Unova video for that now. Oh wow. Okay, I just came to that realization myself just now. And I was looking over there because over there I have a subway map of the New York City subway system hanging on my wall. So they go into this train station, this train museum, and of course I'm like, please steal one of the trains. You got to take one of the trains and use it to escape. You will make my day. No, they don't take one of the trains then and escape with it. No, there's a dirigible that's in the museum that's on display. So they get on. Iris steals the dirigible and uses it to get away. Okay, So now there's freaking lighter than air. There's airships in the movie now. This is freaking. And I just exploded on Twitter. You can see my tweets about this. In fact, I made a Tumblr post with all my tweets about this on it. I'll link that in the info box. And so I just exploded into a burst of joy. And then, so they're running off in an airship, and now Silent steals a train. He takes one of the locomotives from the train museum and uses that to get away. To like they all split ways, so Kyurem can't find them and like follow each of them, and Ash and Keldeo sneak off in another direction. It's a bit of a spoiler there. So yes, we have you have a train chase scene, a Zeppelin chase scene, a gratuitous like 2 or 3 minute sequence of them riding trains and having a fun time, and it's like, okay, this is the Pokemon movie that I would have written, and this is completely and totally awesome, and I have no complaints whatsoever about all the trains and airships in this movie. Uh, really? Okay, you know what? The trains and airships that are in the movie is the only reason that I don't mind the fact that, like, after the first 15 minutes, where it was only about the Pokemon, and it was just about Keldeo, and there was just about the Pokemon, and I was like, this is. I wish Ash didn't have to be in this movie. They could go through this whole movie without a single human being on screen, and it could be a great movie, a great Pokemon movie. And mind you, I do see great Pokemon movie sort of in the way you'd say like a great Taco Bell taco. You know, I am judging these as what they are. I'm not trying to say this is a great film or whatever. You know, it's a good kids movie. It's a good kids anime, uh, and that's what it is. I'm not trying to make it into something I'm not or whatever. But then there's trains, airships. That's really the only thing that have possibly that totally made up for the fact that the whole movie couldn't have been about the Swords of Justice and Keldeo going on awesome adventures and helping save other Pokemon and just about their character development and everything. Um, yeah, so they basically this movie is all action. There's not much sitting around. It's basically it's just a big action scene this whole movie, and there's no human antagonist in this movie. Not even Jesse and James. Jesse and James don't have a single line of dialogue in this movie, based on the version that I saw on TV. They make cameo appearances, very brief ones. You have to look out for them. It's like playing I Spy. It's sort of and they have. I think if I remember correctly, they have the trench coats that they wear where they're in like hardcore Team Rocket mode, where they actually like early in Unova, where they had the black uniforms, and were actually reporting directly to Giovanni and actually going on serious Team Rocket missions. They're acting kind of like that, but they're not even. There's not even any attention drawn to them. They're just kind of in the scenery, like sort of like spies or whatever. Yeah, I don't think they have a single line of dialogue, which is really a welcome relief. Yet another cliche they broke from how Pokemon movies typically go, where like especially in the last one in the Victini movie, where Jesse James and Meowth are just running around, just barely out of sight of the main characters, bumbling around like, oh, we're going to steal we're going to steal Victini, or they usually are just running around, being comic relief and accidentally setting off the main human villain's traps or something like that. And this one, it's just nice they don't need them. They came to the solution in the movies that they came to in the anime pretty early on in Unova when they first went to Unova. Where it's like, hey, if Jesse and James aren't in every episode, it raises the excitement when Jesse and James and Meowth are there, and every story doesn't necessarily need to have them in it just for the sake of convention. So they had a vestigial presence in this movie. I don't mind at all. I wish we'd get to see Serious Mode Team Rocket in one of the films. And I think the next film is going to be about Genesect, and in that sense, it's probably going to involve Team Plasma. Frankly, what if? Oh, that would be cool if they worked in the Rocket versus Plasma thing into the Genesect movie or something like that. Because some of that animation, from what little was revealed of that, was actually film quality. I think it was much better than the normal animation of a typical episode. But back to the movie. Yeah, there's no human antagonist. It's just really all. It's the whole story is about Keldeo's quest to have an honorable fight with Kyurem. That's all what the movie's about. There's really nothing else going on. And in that sense, it's very nice and tight. There's no fluff. There's no nonsense. Everything in the movie is just about getting Keldeo to the fight with getting Keldeo to the fight with Kyurem to prove himself and to prove himself to be a true sword of justice. Uh, and that's nice. But in that sense, there's not a lot going. There's everything in the movie matters to the point of the movie, which is the fight with Kyurem, which is a very well choreographed and well animated fight, and I like the outcome of the fight. It's not the one you'd probably expect. But that being said, there's not a lot going on. The stakes. I wish the movie had been more about Keldeo because the stakes are high for him, but we don't. We get distracted from him because of all the action with Ash and everyone. And there's not enough build up to. I mean, we know that the whole movie is built leading up to Keldeo fighting Kyurem, but there's not enough build up. There's not enough anticipation, like oh here it comes, because we get a little of it, and they try so hard to do it, and we see how frightened Keldeo is of facing Kyurem and everything. But when it happens, it feels like this is very quick. There's not a lot of anticipation. Uh, there's just not a lot of time to build it up. It's very hit it and quit it. They get the story done with very quickly. There's there's just something missing from this movie. I need to watch it again. I need to watch it on DVD. I need to watch it when I'm not tweeting about it. I feel like there's something missing. Uh, a human protagonist would have helped. I mean, that wasn't needed. The story did not need a human protagonist to be told the way it was. But the story did not need humans in it to be told to be Keldeo's coming of age story. Uh, Kyurem is not enough of an antagonist. He's the antagonist, but he's not a villain. I think this movie could have used a villain. I mean, there would have been a way to write it where a villain would have worked. Man, I probably could do a whole other video about my ideas for this movie, but I enjoyed it. Uh, I wish there was more to it, but what was there was definitely they skipped so many of the cliches and the tropes and the stereotypes of what a Pokemon movie usually has in it. Because I told you, I wrote a whole satire thing about what would be in this Pokemon movie, and most of what was in there that's in the other Pokemon movies wasn't in there. The best part, normally what these Pokemon movies do, they did it in the first movie. It was Ash himself, but in many of the Pokemon movies, there's a scene where you're supposed to believe that the legendary Pokemon has sacrificed itself to save the day, where it's been killed or it used all its energy and it died or it vanished forever or something, and they'll be like, oh, we're so sorry you died, legendary Pokemon of this particular movie. We wish we could have saved you. Or they'll have some flashback scenes of Ash interacting with the Pokemon. Or whatever. The last time they did this in the Victini movie. They did it in the Zoroark movie. They did it in the Arceus movie. They did it in they also did it in the Darkrai movie. They did it in Pokemon the Latios and Latias movie. They do it in almost all the movies, and only once did the Pokemon actually turn out to not to have survived and is permanently dead. And I won't say which movie that is, so I won't spoil it for you. But yeah, they skipped that. They didn't have that in this movie. I thank you. I mean, they came kind of close because the Musketeers or the Swords of Justice or whatever are frozen in ice throughout most of the movie. But you're not led to believe they're dead or anything. Like, oh, if we could defeat Kyurem, we could thaw them out, and everything will be fine again. One thing about this movie, now this is something that, one thing I want to mention real quick. Ash's Snivy is in this movie. Ash's Snivy did not appear on screen for 1 second in the Victini movie, which was very unfortunate. In this movie, at least she has a couple of scenes. I don't know how they managed to go through the whole Victini movie and not have Snivy in it for 1 second. But it was nice. And she was in character, like like being on the train, sleeping, and all the other Pokemon are bothering her. She's sort of like the crotchety older sister, like leave me alone, I'm trying to sleep. So it was nice to see her in character. Whenever. Uh, then let's see, was Ash's? Yeah, it's funny. Okay, point being, or was I? Oh yes, one thing about in this movie we have 5 different Pokemon talking to each other in this movie, and they have the Swords of Justice and Keldeo are basically like a family. They're all basically like his older siblings, pretty much, bringing him up. And because you don't have a lot of dialogue of Pokemon speaking to each other in this universe, the weird thing is that there's this long established convention. Like there's probably literally a style manual somewhere of how you write or how you refer to Pokemon. Pokemon have always in the anime have almost always been referred to as it, never he or she, because like strict you generally call a non-human being an it, an animal or whatever, unless you're familiar with that animal and you know its gender and you live with it or work with it or whatever, then you usually call that animal he or she. Like with pets. The Pokemon trainers, they always call their Pokemon it, or they always refer to a Pokemon as it, even if it's Meowth. I think they call Meowth a he, but they generally I've carefully watched this over the years. They generally write they try to write it so like Ash's Pikachu. Ash has known this Pikachu and had like all these adventures with him. They're supposed to be so close and the best of friends. They rarely, I don't think, if ever in the anime in dialogue call Pikachu he. And we know Pikachu is a male now because Ash's female Snivy used attract on him once. I think that's how we know Ash's Pikachu is officially canonically male. But the thing is that uh, they generally they write the dialogue very carefully so they don't have to use pronouns to refer to Pikachu. Like they don't have to use he, she. Excuse me, my dog's barking in the background. They generally don't have to. Oh shush! My gosh, I'm not cutting this out. I don't have time to cut this out. They generally structure the dialogue so they don't have to call Pikachu either he. They don't have to call Pikachu he or she or it, so that they don't have to break the convention that Pokemon are not supposed to be humanized by calling them he or she. Whereas in this case, the the Swords of Justice, the 3 legendaries, and Keldeo, they all refer to each other as it. Like you see these two, like these brother and sister sort of Pokemon talking about this Keldeo was kind of like a little brother to them, like saying, "Oh, it became more powerful. Oh, its fighting skills have improved," and it feels very weird that Pokemon that are shown to be these characters are shown to be of human intelligence, and they call each other it, and it's very distracting and annoying. And I don't think it would set the world on fire if these characters, if the Pokemon themselves calling each other it rather than he or she. Just let them say he or she. It's just annoying. But of course, when you start humanizing them like that, then you get into the whole moral thing of calling are you enslaving sapient beings or whatever, and I guess they referring to them as it makes it, I guess, easier for them to not have to deal with that. Uh, so my dog's barking at nothing, and it's getting late. I really pushed it making this video. I gotta go all out and do all the real life stuff I have to do, and maybe sometime I'll be able to make videos again. So thanks for watching for this 40 or so minutes I've been talking, and we'll see you later.